So, thank you for coming on today. Our guest today is Zeke Corley. Is that how you pronounce
That's
it?
it.
Corley?
That's it. Yeah.
Zeke Corley from yourinsurancplace.com, an independent insurance brokerage that provides both business and personal solutions.
That's
I wrote
right.
that. Is that correct?
Yeah.
It sounds
yeah,
good.
Yeah. I can go more in depth, but
Yeah.
I'll take the introduction. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for sitting down with us.
Yeah.
So, I think the most interesting thing that we usually like to talk about is the background of the guests that come in, what their story is, how did they get to where they are today. So what's your story?
The story is long. I'm an old man now, so I got a long story. But just before I got back into the business, my dad started this business back in 1977. So before I got back into the business, I used to work with a telecommunications company. I don't know if you're old enough to remember Cingular Wireless.
I remember Cingular.
But I worked with a dealer for Cingular, came down from the Bay Area, and they eventually I rose to being the regional vice president there. 43 locations, 300 employees. I taught a lot of sales training. So that's kind of the background. Before I got back into the family business, my dad coerced me back in, and but I brought a lot of experience. But there is still, the difference between owning your own business and working for a large corporation like that. So I learned a lot, but there is so much more to, being in this family business.
Did you go to school for anything in particular?
Oh, I went to school for communications. As a matter of fact, at San Jose State, I was a disc jockey. So I was on the radio for a good 5 years, and that's why sometimes I accidentally get into my radio voice.
Yes.
Yeah, but
hopefully you'll accidentally switch into that a couple times.
It was 90.5 FM KSJS San Jose.
You're good at this.
But anyway, so we. When I got back into the family business, we put some of those tools back into what we do now, and we're moving along. So what we do, though, commercial and business insurance, business and personal insurance, we do write the homes and autos for a lot of our business clients, but we really specialize in that business insurance. Liability, professional liability, general liability, workers' comp, errors and omissions.
All the fun stuff that everyone needs and no one likes to talk about.
That's the one thing about insurance, right? It's an old industry, and everybody's pretty much required to have it. So there's always some business out there. The question is, what differentiates you from another agency? And
when you're going to school, did you think that you were going to come out and go into the family business, or were you trying to get away from it?
You never know.
It was in the back of the mind.
The family business is always there, right? When I was growing up, I was in a teen, and my dad would have us hand out flyers, do marketing for the business, and eventually, when I was working with the radio station, I would go into the office and put on a shirt and tie or something, and make cold calls or whatever it is that was needed. So I had some experience, and, I kind of got to watch the business growing up. Yeah. Even during that time, though, I did see the stress, that was on him, with the business. He actually went to law school during that. So that was, that's a lot. He had a lot on his plate, but he did a great job still, keeping the business going at the same time. And my mom's involved as well, too. And she got her license, and she, does a lot of the accounting and paperwork.
Truly is a family business.
It is a family business. Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And radio and insurance, probably maybe not much further apart than you can possibly. I think that's probably about as far apart as you can.
I'm a pretty well-rounded individual.
So when you're doing insurance, you're doing all these types of things for different industries, and is it difficult, like having to work with an agricultural company versus is there some creativity to it, like you have to figure out the different types of things that need to be insured, the different kinds of
Well, insurance in general, yes. The answer is yes. I mean, there's a big difference, underwriting wise with each and every industry, and sometimes each and every client, each and every region that they're in, and so forth. But one of the funniest questions that you ask yourself every time a client calls and says, I want you to write my insurance, it's what's the worst that could happen? Right? So we start with the worst and then we work our way backwards. So you think about, what if every client that comes in slips and breaks their ankle on something? Now we've got to insure based on that. Now the question is, how many clients are coming in? What does the ground look like? So now, what are your safeguards versus, how are we protecting ourselves, and that's kind of where the premium comes from. But
I'm sure you have all kinds of stories of worst case scenarios happening.
a lot of worst
Are you allowed to talk about any of those, or is you got to keep them all secret?
There's a lot. Let's just say there's a lot. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily be specific, but there's tree trimmers. Tree trimmers is a very dangerous industry, and actually, deaths can come from that, right? And the same thing with roofers. There's a lot of danger involved with some of these jobs, and that's why the insurance premiums are a little bit higher, right? Then you've got, places who, big homes, big, expensive homes, a lot of money, a lot of things inside, and either a fire or a major theft happens. That's a lot for the insurance. So there are many, many different types of claims, but what we do is try to mitigate those.
Yeah, I mean, that's very interesting stuff.
Yeah. Interesting to some folks.
Well, maybe I'm weird. But, so, as an insurance broker, so you don't necessarily work with like an insurance provider. You work with multiples and kind of just find is that how does that work?
Well, there's agents and there's brokers, right?
Right.
We're not a captured agent, which would be like your Allstate, State Farm, and so forth, where they can only go to one place, right? But we are agents for some carriers, a Hartford and Safeco's and Liberty Mutual and so forth. But we are also brokers, and the way that you develop these appointments is over time. You show insurance carriers that, hey, we can bring you plenty of business. We can have good production with you, and you develop that over time. That relationship gets developed over time. You got to prove it. And low claims, high revenue, so forth. And so what we do basically is, when you start the business back in 1977, you have plenty of time to gather up so many insurance companies who believe in you, who are on your team, and that's what we have. So we have one of the largest books of business out there because of our relationships with so many different insurance carriers. When we're shopping versus someone else down the street shopping, we may have more access to good quotes.
Yeah, you also have that benefit where you don't have to go to Allstate. You can go to a competitor if they have a better rate for that specific need.
Yeah.
So
because the client is who we're most responsible to.
Yeah, I think that's how business should be done.
That's how it should be done. But like I said, with captured agents, if their only place to go is State Farm, then they're not going to talk to you about anybody else. They're going to talk to you about what State Farm can do for you.
Has the industry changed a lot since, was it 1977 you said? You know what I mean?
I didn't start back then, so I don't know. But it's constantly changing. I mean, first of all, with this COVID thing, a lot's going to change now too, right? But I'm reminded of 9/11. When 9/11 happened, before 9/11, most insurance policies weren't required to offer terrorism coverage. But now, if you think about how much damage is done when all of these buildings get knocked down and there's claims, there's deaths, there's so forth, insurance companies could go broke. They could all go bankrupt trying to insure something like that, major claim. Sure, the government stepped in and they helped out them, but then they enforced after that, you are required to offer terrorism coverage each and every time. And I think that's what's going to happen in the future too. Communicable diseases were excluded from a lot of insurance policies, whereas now we're going to probably have to offer those offer that coverage in the future.
Are a lot of people coming in trying to get coverage for things like COVID
well,
these
yeah,
days?
how could you not, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because so many folks are suffering, so many businesses are suffering, and it's unfortunate. Some of them are going out of business, but you know, is there coverage on my policy for business interruption is something that I'm hearing, every other day.
Is it common to have
That
coverage for business
Like
interruption?
I said, it wasn't necessarily required to offer before. It may be required to be offered in the future because the pandemic is something that, it only comes around every so often. And now the insurance companies are alerted to having to offer this coverage. But, it's common to have covered at hospitals, maybe spas. But it's not necessarily going to be a common coverage at, just your ordinary restaurant or somewhere else.
Right. And some of those are the worst hit right now.
Yeah. Well, they're getting hit hard just for being out of business, and not just that, but they have to cut back. They have to have more spacing between each table. There's not as much money to be made out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know I have some people I know that work with some restaurants, and you go in and I think they have to operate at like 25% capacity was the old rule, and then now you have to eat outside. So if you can't figure out an outdoor eating solution, good luck.
That's tough. It'd be nice to see the city step up and kind of offer up, sidewalks and streets and parking lots.
And I think they are a little bit, because I know the local restaurant Belching Beaver, they basically took over their entire front parking lot, which obviously, if you were to just follow city ordinances with how much parking does your establishment have? Well, now we have 0.
Right.
But there's enough public parking, and there's a lot right down the street that has so much parking available, and I'm sure that they had to make that conversation with the city, like, hey, can we do something?
Well, I love Belching Beaver, by the way,
too.
but the good thing about them is that they own that building. They own that parking lot, so they were able to do that, whereas other businesses may not have that luxury.
That's true, because if you're trying to put it on the sidewalk, you don't necessarily own the sidewalk.
Right.
I am seeing that more and more, though, which restaurants on sidewalks, which
it's
is
good. I mean, it's giving them an opportunity at least to stay in business. At the same time, though, you still got to have some distancing, because the last thing you need is a major infection, and then everybody traces back to your restaurant. Now we're talking about a whole different lawsuit. Now we're talking about a whole different coverage. Oh,
man. And if they weren't struggling already.
I know, right? Yeah. Oh, no. I sound like a downer.
No, I know. Like on the down note, what kind of challenges do you run into at your business?
Well, there are plenty. I mean, right now I'm dealing with insuring a lot of wineries. I recently got my agribusiness and farm insurance specialist certificate, so I've been working with them a lot, and obviously they're in the farmlands, and it's getting hot out there, so there's the potential of wildfire coming through, like has happened in the past few years in various winery areas, including Napa and Sonoma and so forth.
Yeah, how is it working with vineyards? Do they give you a tasting every time you come out?
If I ask for it, I mean, I don't mind tasting wine. I don't turn it down. That's for sure.
You a big fan of wine?
Absolutely. Wine and tequila. I drink a little bit of water sometimes.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the number one ingredient of both of those is water. So
yeah, so I'm good. Stay hydrated.
Staying hydrated. Well, I mean, what are the future plans for the business? Are you growing it? Are you trying to get more industries? Are you just kind of maintaining, like trying to keep up?
Always more. I mean, the good thing about insurance is it's a residual based business, right? So you want to continue to maintain the clientele that you do have, but at the same time, always be out, trying to meet new clients, So for me, it's very important for us to always be, shaking hands with strangers, bumping elbows nowadays, I guess, but, just constantly growing, that's the bottom line when it comes to us. And we have 2 agencies, Network One Insurance and Bill Corley Insurance. We just have them under the umbrella of yourinsuranceplace.com. That's just our branding.
And how does that work? Is that something where you just share a website? You're sharing, is it the agents are also shared? How does that all work together?
Yeah, we're all on one website. I mean, both agencies are owned by us.
Yeah. Oh, well, that makes it a little more easy.
Yeah,
A little simpler.
There's no arguing.
Yeah. Is there any other types of challenges that come as like working in a family business, like where the work and the private kind of like mesh a little bit? And
Not as much as it used to be, when I was in my teens. I mean, it's like, Dad, I don't want to talk business anymore, But I think he's kind of like that now. I mean, he's headed in his direction towards semi-retirement, and we're in the motorhome driving on a nice little trip, and I'm asking him, hey, what do you think about this client? What do you think we can do to write this or whatever? I mean, he's always down to impart knowledge, but I think he'd rather just be relaxing and not talking business as much as he used to back in the kitchen.
I mean, and it's also an interesting thing because it's like, hey, family vacation, we're shutting down the whole office, right? Like, because like if you're, if it's not a family run business and it's everyone's like separately, one person takes a vacation, it probably doesn't shut down all your operations. Whereas, in a family owned business, family vacation kind of takes everyone out.
No. We're workaholics, man. The business is always going, keep the phone nearby. The emails are going. We can work remotely. We never stop working.
Never stop working.
No. I mean, there's good freedom. That's one of the things about owning your own business, right? Mm-hmm. There's good freedom to be able to step away and, whenever you want to, but at the same time, that if the business folds, it's your fault as well, right? So there's a responsibility there at all times.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so if someone needed some insurance and wanted to reach out to you, how would you recommend they do that?
They can always reach through the site. Sometimes you can actually get quotes, put in some information at yourinsuranceplace.com. At the same time, you could always just email me or give me a call or stop by the world famous Film Hub.
Yes, the Film Hub here in Vista, California.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that that's pretty much it for today. So if you is there anything else that you wanted to go over or tell the listeners today?
No. I mean, we're actually, I will say this, we're starting a podcast. And it's not necessarily just, from Your Insurance Place. It's actually something that I've always wanted to do. And I think now's a good time to do it. So we will be broadcasting as well from the world famous Film Hub in Vista, California. But
your set may look a little similar.
Yeah. But same business, different day podcast. And they can just look out for that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, we'll be talking a lot about entrepreneurship and really trying to inspire young folks to own their own businesses as well.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
I think entrepreneurship is what makes America great. Like it's our backbone.
Yes,
it's like that spirit, right?
Sure. Like I said, there's a lot of freedom to be gained, from doing it, but at the same time, there's a lot of pressure on you. But you've got to understand the minds of people who do own businesses and what they go through on a daily basis, and that kind of help inspire you that you're no different than them. There are plenty of people out there making plenty of money, owning their own business, and they just had an idea and ran with it. It's good to have experience again, as an employee, but there's nothing like having your own and being a part of this society.
Do you have any advice for someone who wants to start their own business? Any kind of, it's obviously there's the benefits from it, but I mean, I think the hardest part that I've seen is people actually, because you have the ideas, but like, I think there's like that self-doubt and like a little bit of like fear of failure and things like that.
Sure.
So do you have any advice for people that are looking to start their business?
Like I say, listen to the podcast because you'll be able to kind of crack open the mind of a lot of business owners and realize that you're not any different than them. We all have our ideas, we have our dreams, and we'll talk a lot about, the planning that those folks did in order to move forward with their business, right? I mean, because that's important, right? You got to understand how your dream can become fruition. You got to understand how to lay it out, outline it. You've got to understand how to look at your competition and explore how to market, which I know that's a big deal for you.
I don't know if do you know anyone who does any marketing?
I think I do.
Yeah.
I think I do, and they should definitely contact you for that, as I will as well.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So that's all, man. I mean, I'd love for your folks, your listeners, to check out our podcast as well. Same business, different day.
Yeah, I'll have to, same business, different day. I'll have to maybe I'll try to hop on yours. We'll
yeah, you're more than welcome.
we'll trade off.
More than welcome. Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by
No problem, man.
and
Thanks
sitting
for
down
having
with us. And it's yourinsuranceplace.com.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.